Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I just want to sort of talk about some tips and tricks for starting out the game. So for brand new players. So just a bit of background on my accounts. So this is my Kale account. I didn't actually start playing Raid with this Kale account. I started with my Galek account, and as the name suggests, I started as my starter champion as Galek. So some of you are probably already sort of hanging your head in shame and saying, "Oh, GoodLadGamer, why have you done that?" But for me, Galek was the front cover of Raid. He was the face of Raid. So for me, I just thought, "Good, he's got to be quite good." So I chose him. Little did I know that he's probably the worst out of the 4 starters. So that sort of leads on. I played for about a week with my Galek account and then realised that I was inefficient in the way I started the game. So I started a second account, which is my Kale account. So as you can tell, probably by the name again, that suggests I started with Kale. So that is tip number 1. Choose Kale as your starter. It's as simple as that, really. So I'll go and find Kale in my account. Let's go and find him. So this is Kale. He's in the starter gear that you get. You win this as a reward, all of this lifesteal gear. So that's going to help you on in the game, but that can come for a tip later on. So let's just check out my Kale stats with the starter gear with a couple of upgrades, and obviously I've enhanced some of the gear. So he's got 35,000 HP and just over 2,000 defense. So I would say that's quite a respectable amount for your starter champion. That is the sort of stats you need to sort of get in clan boss and stuff like that. He's got 2,900 attack. So I don't know if that's sufficient compared to the amount of crit damage that I've got. I could probably do with raising the crit damage a little and lowering the attack, but this was at the start of the game. I haven't rebuilt Kale since I started playing the game, since I stopped using him, essentially. 175 speed and 236 accuracy. So for any of you that know, 236 accuracy is going to get you, I think sort of the recommended amount of accuracy in the game for Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss is 236. So that's clearly what I was aiming for. I was aiming high, but the rest of the stats didn't really reflect that. But with that basic gear, you can achieve these stats. So this is more than enough to be able to solo some of the earlier content and definitely to farm so you can level other champions. So tip number 1 is choose Kale. He has a poison on his A1. There we go, with a 80% chance, 100 if booked. So definitely a good poisoner. He's got a big smack on his A2 with a 15% increase of crit rate and a 25% turn meter fill if you kill an enemy. So if you take out a wave, if you take out a wave, you'll be able to go again. You'll be able to go twice, essentially. And then on his A3, he's got attack 4 times at random, which isn't great, but on single enemy content, like bosses or clan boss, this is great for dealing poison damage. So that helps with dragon, which is the most efficient way to kill the dragon is with poison. It helps with ice golem. So if you deal damage through a debuff like poison or HP burn, the ice golem doesn't do his big retribution hit at the percentage parts of his health. So poison is one of the most efficient ways to bring him down, and it means you don't get extra damage put on your champions. It helps, Kale helps in Spider because he has his big nuke on the A2, so he can take out the waves of the mini spiders, so you can just focus on attacking the big spider. And of course he's got the 4-time hits for Fire Knight to take down his shield, so the rest of your champions can focus damage on him and take him out. So there's that. He's a great campaign farmer, and most of all, poisons are the best way to deal damage to the clan boss. You know, that's a fact. Unless you've got some insane champions that can do way more damage, poison is one of the best ways to damage the clan boss. So number 1 is level Kale. My sort of second tip for the day is to level Kale. It sounds really simple. It sounds like one of the sort of basic parts of the game. Level up your champions. The aim is to get them to 6-star. But Kale as your first champion, to be able to farm Brutal needs to be level 60, in my opinion. You can probably do it at level 50 quite comfortably, but you're not going to get the speed that you do. I can guarantee I'll do this run and I'll fail it, which will be really embarrassing. So here's my Kale soloing 12-3. So once he can do this, you can put other champions in there. You can start leveling your other champions and start making a team for yourself. So yeah, he's quite comfortably doing this. He's taken a couple of hits, but nothing too scary. One more champ left. Take him out. There you go. So that's my Kale. So tip number 2 is level Kale to 6-star level 60, because it's the most efficient way to be able to farm so that you can build up the rest of your account and the rest of your champions. And this brings me quite nicely into my third tip, which is make your way to Brutal. So you start on normal campaign, work your way through here. If you're struggling on any of the stages, just go back to the last stage that you could 3-star solo, and then work on grinding up your champions on that stage. And then once you've leveled up a bit and you've got some better gear and stuff like that, move on to the stage that you were struggling with. So work your way through normal, work your way through hard, and then finally work your way through Brutal and start doing Brutal 12-3. So 12-3 is the most efficient way to use your energy. It gives you the most silver for the shields of the curing set, and it gives you the best XP out of all the... Well, it doesn't give you the best XP, but it's the most efficient way to do it because of the silver cost of the shield as well. So you sell the shield, you get a good amount of XP, and it's still only 8 energy to do. There is more efficient ways to do it in Nightmare, but you need some much better champions. Your starter probably can't farm Nightmare comfortably. So yeah, tip number 3, get to Brutal 12-3, stage 12, level 3. Tip number 4 is to join a clan and make a start on clan boss as soon as possible. Clan boss is the easiest way, or is the most sort of, what's the word that I'm looking for? The most efficient way to get consistent shards to be able to pull champions, to be able to better your account. So even at low levels, you're more likely to pull shards for the clan boss. Let me have a look. Can we see what the drop info is? So even on, where are we? Easy, the warrior chest, there's a chance to get ancients, and then that percentage just increases the higher up you get. And I've been watching some content creators on YouTube that are doing a sort of free-to-play challenge. It's the Hell Hades free-to-play challenge, and a load of other YouTubers are getting involved. And they're rocketing through Clan Boss. It took me months, maybe even a year to even get to Nightmare. So those guys are absolutely rocking it. Obviously, they know how to play the game. They know how to play it really efficiently. But it's quite daunting when you start out, but it's actually not as bad as you think. And if you take a couple of chances, you might be able to move up a stage. The general rule of thumb that I had when I was coming up through the game was if I can 2-key one stage, I can probably 4-key the next stage up. So I just used that rule of thumb once I sort of got my head around how Clan Boss works and speed tunes and stuff like that, and just worked my way up. I did Nightmare for about a year because I just couldn't sort of accumulate the gear I needed for Ultra Nightmare. And then one day I just realised that my gear was actually quite good, and I'd sort of hoarded enough gear to be able to build out a whole team for Ultra Nightmare. But even just doing Brutal, do Brutal consistently every day, try and refine your keys down. You get 4 keys a day. So just do whatever stage you can consistently, and you're going to start building up shards eventually. And I've just done a video where I've accumulated over 100 ancient shards on both of my accounts since the last ancient shard pull. So, you know, there's consistency in what you're getting, and you get shards every day. At the moment, I can 1-key Ultra Nightmare, 1-key Nightmare, I 1-key Brutal, and then I just use my last key of the day just to do whichever one is still not beat, or I just put both of my accounts last key on hard, just so I can optimize how many shards I'm going to get, and I can optimize the sort of rewards that you get there. So yeah, that's the next sort of tip from me. Start clan boss, join a clan, start clan boss as early as possible, and then the last one, which is something that you can see by this number here that I don't do very often because I can accumulate gear elsewhere. but is really utilizing the forge. You know, some of this gear that you can create right at the start of the game is crazy. It's got crazy bonuses, and I can't say it enough. Perception gear is, in my opinion, the best gear set in the game. So you get plus 40 accuracy and plus 5% speed. If you're using the Hell Hades optimizer, perception gear is in nearly every champ that I build. If I start going through some of my champions, so perception gear, none on my clan, perception gear, one piece of perception in there, so it's not utilizing the set bonus. Let's keep going. Perception gear on my coroner that I'm using to try and beat faction wars at the moment. Obviously my arbiter's just pure speed, just speed. I don't really care about any other stat on her. 323 speed, it's not bad for a free-to-play account. Perception gear on my Death Knight. Survivability for Wither. Perception gear on Uko, who's in my Faction Wars team. Perception gear on my Drex for being my spider tank and all-out crazy champion for Doom Tower. So yeah, perception gear for me is the best gear set in the game. I don't have much that I can sort of forge at the moment, but I do utilize it when I'm doing clan versus clan because it gets good points and it gets me good gear. So perception gear, use the forge as much as you can, and really it's a good way to make money because most of the gear, or some of the gear you get, you'll just be able to sell on straight away. If I make a piece of gear now, crit damage and attack, I mean it is good, but a rare piece of gear for me, even 6-star, I'm probably just going to sell on. So I made that for 10,000, I'm selling it for 40,000. So 30,000 silver made just by one piece of gear. So you can see why it's a good way to make money. If I'm short on money and I've got an event like a artifact enhancement event, I'll normally just pull some stuff in the forge and use the RSL helper to help me filter through the gear and just sell on whatever I don't need. So yeah, that's tip number 5. So to go through them again, choose Kale. I can't say it enough, choose Kale. If you're not going to choose Kale, I personally think Elhain is the next best champion. She's an all-out damage dealer compared to the other champs, but that can come in handy, you know. Elhain is, as she's an all-out damage dealer, she's probably more usable in places like Arena over Kale. Some people might argue with that, but she can also help you in all the other content just for taking out waves and taking out bosses. So choose Kale. If you don't want to, choose Elhain. Level your starter champion to be 6-star, level 60. They can cut, any of the starter champions can comfortably do 12-3, which is tip number 3, to get to brutal 12-3 to be able to farm other champions XP. Tip number 4, clan boss, join a clan, hit the clan boss as much as possible, try and get some shards. And tip number 5, use the forge, particularly in my opinion, to build perception gear, so then you can start leveling your champions, have a good starter, and have the gear to be able to support the champions that you need. Accuracy is probably, I mean, early game, I would say accuracy is the most important stat out of all of them. You can see on my Kale, I'll just go back to my Kale. You can see on my Kale, out of all of my stats, the most significant one for me is this 236 accuracy. Even if I wasn't using him in Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss, his poisons would land on Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss. His speed wouldn't, and his survivability, he would be wiped out pretty quickly, but his poisons would land. So you can see the sort of priorities that I had here. A perception gear supports you in that. It gives you extra speed, so this speed would probably be increased, and it gives you extra accuracy. So if you can get gear with substats of accuracy and speed plus the set bonus, you're pretty good to go. So they're my 5 tips for beginners, guys. Let me know what you think. If you disagree with any of them, then let me know. Good luck if you're just starting out the game, and hopefully this video helps you a little bit. It's quite vague compared to how some of these other videos can go, but they're just the sort of 5 main tips that I can think of to really help you in the game. For me, playing a game like this is about sort of learning about it and discovering these things. So even though I look a couple of things up on YouTube, I like to learn about the champions and learn what I need to do differently. I analyse the battles as they go. So So that's just my own sort of personal interest. So I don't want anyone to spoil it by giving me every tip you can imagine, just to be able to play the game sort of blindly. So good luck, guys. Hopefully the tips helped, and I'll see you next time.